We are about to start a project where we show everything we've learned about the primary and secondary colors. The first thing we're going to need is a white sheet of paper, and the first thing you're going to have to do is to make sure your paper is long ways or in what we call a landscape format and not going up like this. You want it to be sideways so it's longer going across. The next thing we need to talk about is what is an outline. An outline is just the outside shape of any sort of object. So let's say I have a glue bottle here. Now this glue bottle has some funny curves and ridges on it, but if I was going to draw the outline of a glue bottle, it might look something and maybe I'll just do a regular old glue bottle. But the outline is going to look something like that. So it's just the outside edges. We'll do another example of a tree, right? We know trees have lots of leaves and branches inside of them, but if I was going to draw just the outside edge of a tree, maybe it looks kind of like that. For your project, you're going to be using the same shape and outline 7 different times, and you're going to be overlapping them. So we need to talk about what does overlapping mean. If I were to take my hands and overlap them, it means I'm putting one on top of the other like that. For your project, you're going to be overlapping your shapes, making sure there's lots of space in the middle where those two shapes overlap. So I'm going to show you an example right now, and I'll use this area to draw 2 circles that are overlapping. See how they cross over into one another? That space in here is our overlapped space, and we need to make sure we have lots of that in our picture. What we don't want is 2 circles that hardly overlap. That space in between there, that's not going to be enough. We need to make sure they cross over into one another. See that? I'll have lots of area where the 2 come together and are overlapping. For your project, you can pick any object or shape that you want to use. The key to the object that we pick is that it shouldn't have space in between it. In other words, if I was going to use, say, a water bottle, and maybe a water bottle might look something like that, that works because it's one solid shape, one outline that goes all the way around. If I were to pick, say, a pair of scissors that looks something like this, and then it had these cutouts where your fingers go, that's not going to work for us. It's got to be one solid shape with one outline that goes all the way around. So for your project, you're going to be using the same shape 7 times, 4 times across the top and 3 times across the bottom. So when we go to make your shape, you need to make sure that we have enough room to put it 4 times here and 3 times there. One trick you can use is to use something called a template. I'll use a flower shape. Something like that. And one thing you could do, but you don't have to do, is cut that flower out. So now I cut my flower out and I can trace over it. Now remember, you don't have to use a template, but you can if you want to, so that all of your objects become the same size and same shape. So now you can use your template and trace back around it to get your outline. Now I'm using a marker in my video so that you guys can see it really good, but when you guys go to do this, I want you to use a pencil. Because if we make a mistake, I want you to be able to erase it. So to show you how the whole project comes together, I'm going to go back to the shape of a circle. But remember, you can use whatever shape you want. And I'm going to actually use a cup and trace a cup. But you can use whatever shape you want. So you can see how I started with my 4 circles going in a row, and that there is no overlapping and they did not touch, and those are spread apart from one another, and there's room in the paper for all of them to sit. Now when you guys go to do your tracing or your drawing of your objects, I want you to use a pencil. I'm just using a marker so that you guys can see it, but you can see that if I make mistakes with a marker, I'm not going to be able to erase, so I want you to use a pencil. Now I'm going to draw the same shape 3 times on the bottom, and this time that shape is going to go right on top of the 2 that it is sitting under. So now I'm going to trace this out again, but again, you can draw it. You don't have to trace it. And now you can see this is overlapping both of these circles. Now this is where the fun part begins, because you're going to start to color them in. On your project, you're going to have just your shapes and just your outlines and color. For right now, I'm going to actually write on here which colors are going to go where, so that it helps you when you start your project. So this circle is going to start off red. The next circle is going to be yellow. The next one is going to be blue, which we already know are our 3 primary colors. And then at the end, you're going to repeat red again. The bottom circles are also going to be our primary colors. And this time we're going to start with blue down here. Then we're going to go red in the middle and yellow over here. Now what's going to happen is you're going to see that this red circle is going to meet this blue circle, and in the area where they meet, we're going to come up with one of our secondary colors, and we should know what red and blue mixed together makes. And then here we have blue, and where the blue overlaps with the yellow, we're going to have another secondary color. And then we're going to have yellow overlapping with red, blue overlapping with red, and yellow overlapping with red back over here again. Now remember, in your project, you're not going to write any of those words out. You're just going to have your shapes. When you go to color them in, you could use colored pencils, you could use paint, you could use chalk or crayons, anything that you can use that has color you can use. You could even use pieces of construction paper that are different colors and cut them out if you want. So you can see I filled in all of those circles are my shapes, but in the areas where they are overlapping, I haven't colored them in yet, because look at what happens. We have 2 primary colors overlapping with one another. So now we get to put the secondary color in there that they make. So we know that in that space, when we mix yellow and red, we get orange. When we mix blue and yellow, we get green. When we mix red and blue, we get purple. Again, we have red and yellow, so we're orange. Blue and yellow make green, and blue and red make purple. So I'm going to show you what the finished project might look like. And I chose to do a cat. And I used the outline of a cat with a tail and created a little template. And I traced it out in pencil. onto my paper, and I made sure I had enough space to fit 4 across the top. Once I'm all set there, I'm ready to start painting.